We are sitting here with Frederick Williams. He is an author out of Arkansas, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, tell us about a little bit the type of author you are.
Well, I consider myself science fiction, fantasy, and specifically horror. And
Okay.
sometimes I call it hardcore horror or personal horror.
Okay. So what made you get into that? How'd you get into writing in general before you even chose the type of writing? How did you get into writing in general?
Yeah, well, like I was saying, when I was younger, I had a scary horror experience, and it was
Okay.
through movies. When I was little, I used to just try to scare people, and I don't know, I ain't gonna try to explain that, but that came up, and I was like, okay, I need to start mastering this.
Yeah.
So it started when I was little, and then I was a comic book fan. I love comic books. I love science fiction. I love fantasy. So after that, that was my mission and goal, to master that.
That's awesome.
And now, if I could ever become a film director, it's over.
Right.
It's over.
That's awesome, man.
Yes, sir.
I can tell that you're passionate about it. I mean, you're one of the few people I've ever talked to through just through email and through Instagram, and I could feel your passion when you were talking. You know,
yeah. I take everything seriously, because I've been taught you master everything that exists in front of you.
Man, that's deep. That's
deep. I don't care what it is. It could be. There's no such thing as small things.
Right.
It's every. I want to master it. So when you either read or see some of my work, it's so plain and clear. You don't have to think on it. It'll explain itself to you.
Right. That's awesome. I like that.
And that's what that's how I write and express myself. So you get crystal clarity. So if I want to scare the hell out of you, it's going to be crystal clear.
Right. You know what? When I was in college, I had an English teacher. You know, it actually helped me with my writing. Her thing was to always remind us, just to show, don't tell.
Yes.
You know, bring it to life.
Absolutely. I think the same way. And I want to make sure that the life that you're going to experience, I'm responsible for that. So you see, okay, that's more than just one life. I'll make sure you see this, you see that, you see this, and you see that. Ain't gonna be no questions. And that's how you just do that.
Yeah.
That's my goal and plan to do that.
I like that. What was your first book?
My first book was mostly comic books, but as far as the horror that I remember, of course, Stephen King, Clive Barker's, the movies of the 80s and 90s, Clive Barker, Stephen King, H.P. Lovecraft.
Was that last thing you broke up a little bit?
H.P. Lovecraft.
Okay.
Yeah, I love his work. And his movies, they made into movies. Edgar Allan Poe. I mean, those are the masters. And then, as far as modern, one of my favorite horror filmmakers is, of course, John Carpenter.
Oh yeah, He did the Interview with the Vampire, right?
Yes, I mean that's just one of them.
Right.
He's famous for the movie They Live. The Thing. Of course, Halloween.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, those are movies that I basically grew up with, and those are masters. So I learned from them. So and also too, Jordan Peele. I'm looking to be the next. I want to be the next one, but I want to be like that.
Right. Yeah, he's doing some. I'm really impressed with what he's coming out with over the years. And it's funny because he's a funny guy. He's like a comedian, but he's bringing to life all these real deal movies.
Yeah, and then the subject matter that he uses is what I kind of I always say, everyday life is a horror story. It's a matter how you're going to tell it.
Right.
And how we handle it. Right. So yeah, I like him. Yeah, so that's how I see it. And then in our other interview, I always share that I want to make all my stories mathematical.
You
That's
were
how.
talking about how 1+1 always has to equal 2 in your books. Like you always want to add math to bring the viewer in.
Yeah, specifically mathematical thinking. When I do my stories, I'm gonna have it where you know why you're gonna get it. You know
Right.
why you're gonna get it. It's no debate. It's no, well, I just accidentally fell into something and then here goes the story. You're
Right.
gonna know from the beginning to the end, mathematically, why you're gonna get it or why the story even exists.
Right.
So that's where all my stories come from. Because as I was watching horror movies, they have no purpose, no meaning. It's like for example, you have a horror movie where somebody just think about, well, I'm gonna kill people.
Right.
And then it's like, okay, that's the whole movie. So I just feel like killing people and that's it.
Right.
My story, no. Those stories are trash. And I'm sorry for the ones that are gonna be hearing this. A lot of horror movies are trash.
Right.
And it takes no thought in it. And I'm trying to change that. So when I say my mathematical horror stories, you're gonna know why it's happening. You're gonna know why, how, what, when, and where.
Right. I like that.
When you read the story or see it in a film, you be like, man, I can relate to that. I can relate. It's like the perfect karma.
Right.
And my movies are like that. My stories are like that. And that's all I want to write because I'm just sick of these lazy horror movies. So that's why I brought up about Jordan Peele. You know, he did the movie Get Out. So that's basically a math because it's, I ain't gonna say it's mathematical, but it has a purpose behind it.
Man, that was a dope movie. I mean,
yes,
it brought you in. He gave you some samples of what's to come.
Yes, and also too, you can relate to the movie.
Absolutely.
Black people can relate to that movie easily because it's everyday experience.
Yeah.
Well, that's the same way I want to write my stories, but mine go back in history, it goes present, and it'll go in future.
Okay.
So when you read my stories, I got future, present, and history, or back in the past, and you know why it exists. You know why it's happening.
Right. I like
That's the most scariest movies when you know why you're going to get it. You know, there's a great saying. It's a great saying. Anticipation of death is worse than death itself.
Man, that's deep.
So that's a principle that horror should have in every movie. You know why you're going to get it.
Right.
And ain't because you're right.
Right.
That's how my stories are. That's how most of my stories will be. Because those are real scary experiences.
Right.
That's why I said life is like a horror story. It's just a matter of how you're going to express it.
It is. You can take the things in your life and blow it up.
That's how my stories are. And I'm looking to teach other aspiring artists or writers that want to do the same thing.
Right.
Because that's what's missing right now. Because you can make a horror. You can just find some character, then he killed, and then that's the movie, and then how gross it is.
Right.
That's not a story. That's not a horror movie.
So a key thing you said is how gross it is. That's one thing I don't enjoy about modern horror movies. It's like they don't really try to scare you or create a movie out of it. It just becomes like blood and guts.
That's because that's the easiest non-thinking effort movie to make.
Right.
Take no thought in it.
Right. Yeah.
No thought. You didn't got to think. You just watch. Oh, that's nasty. Oh,
exactly.
That's gross. That's the response they want to get, but it don't take no effort for that. I said no. My stories are, you're gonna think, and then you're gonna think, dang, I'm about to get it, and I know why. There's nothing I can do about it because I earned it and deserved it.
Right. Yeah.
That's how my stories are.
The wildest movie of our, I guess, the modern times is still a little older now to me, that really messed with my mind. I was like done after that when Saw first came out.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Man, that was great. When that dude got up off the ground.
That's a masterpiece right there.
Man, crazy.
Yes.
I never
Yes.
forget the feeling I felt when he got up off the ground and closed that door on him. You know, it was just like,
Yes.
wow, he was there the whole time.
Because you saw yourself in that movie.
Yes.
You saw yourself in that movie, and people can see, oh man, I can't say nothing about it because that's me. I pray that don't happen to me.
Yep.
That's how you get at that movie. And that's how I wrote my stories. You're going to wish you don't be this person because you can be next.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's real life horror.
Uh-huh.
That's real life scary.
Yeah.
When you gotta check yourself and see yourself while you're getting.
Right.
That is scary. That's
right.
scary.
Right.
Not seeing some gore and guts and some aliens. When you it's that self fear.
Right.
And you don't see that in horror. You don't see that in horror.
This when I was young, there was a movie. I'm not gonna lie, I still won't watch it. Hellraiser.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god!
I'm gonna watch out this interview just because you said it.
Dog,
Yeah,
Hellraiser was the scariest thing of my childhood. It was just, I mean, when Pinhead showed up, coming out the box, and then the lady was taking the guys up to the attic to feed it was just crazy.
Yeah, that's something you never expect to see. That's what made that movie such a classic masterpiece, because another thing that I write in my stories is how natural and nature can get you.
Okay.
And it's usually human nature. If you check that movie out, it was about human nature.
Okay.
Because he was talking about torturing and rip your soul apart. That's torturing of the human nature.
Yeah.
And that scares that scares everybody.
Absolutely.
Everybody. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm not surprised hearing you say that, because I had that same effect.
Yeah.
The same experience. Because that was a serious movie.
It was, man.
It was serious.
I promise to this day I won't watch it. I mean, because every character in that movie just was like, they had the one dude with the big head, and it was just a lot going on. I mean, but the movie was done in such a way too scary, like you said. Like they brought you in, they showed you the what and the how and the why, and there was nothing you could do about it.
Nothing you could do about it. You had to suffer the consequences, and sometimes you didn't know why. You just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Exactly.
And that's scary. That's scary when you have to deal with that by yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
So those type of movies that deal with the human nature, those are the best movies.
Right.
Because it deals with nature and self. And that's how my stories are. You can't get around self and nature.
Right. You're right. You're right.
And then I add the mathematical principles in it. Oh man, you in a perfect track.
Right. Now, have you thought about actually what I want to do is, just because we got cut off earlier, I want to go back and talk about where you're from and how you started again, just because like I said, we got cut off earlier. You're from Arkansas, right?
Yes, I'm from Jonesboro, Arkansas. And that's just one place I live.
Okay.
Yeah. So right now I'm in Jonesboro, Arkansas right now.
Okay. And tell us again how you got into the writing and the idea of scaring people in horror movies and horror being a horror author.
Well, it started me being scared to death by horror movies. Then I said, well, shoot, let me see if I can scare people.
Yeah.
I started doing that, and the rest was history. I'm like, I was known for that. People they were like, you better watch Fred. He's gonna try to scare you. You better watch Fred. He's gonna try to scare you. You better watch him.
Right.
I said, it don't matter. I'm gonna get you anyway. It don't matter. Because I was always taught to think.
Yeah.
And think beyond you and farther than you. I was always taught that.
Right.
To think.
I like that.
I always did that. I was like, okay, what and the horror movies helped me do that, because like I said, I grew up watching the 70s, the 80s, and 90s movies. And there's only a few out of them decades that was like masterpieces that actually really scared you.
Right.
Because usually the unknown scares you. That's always scares people. So there's a few movies that were like the unknown. You never experienced it. So yeah, those gonna scare you. Those gonna definitely scare you. You ain't getting around that.
Right.
And then what I was sharing to you about the mathematical fear and self-fear, that's where I learned to write. Like for an example, I give you a small example. What's that movie? The Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Oh man, I remember that.
That's an example. That's an example. Now, I wouldn't write something like that because it's dealing with plants and aliens like that. Mine would be more of human aliens
Okay.
and things like that. But that's
Right.
an example what I'm speaking about as far as the what I learned to write about. But those gave me examples. They gave me thoughts to say, oh man, okay, they did this. Well, hold on, what about this? This would be more scary.
Right.
So that's
Right.
why I came up with some of my stories to do that. Because it's like I said, you're not getting around self-fear
Right.
and then nature fear. You ain't getting around it. There's no way you get around that because you can't stop it.
Right.
You can't stop your self-fear. If I
Right.
scare you, you can't stop me from scaring you.
Right. Right.
So that's a master plan in scaring people when we direct it to you and yourself. You ain't
Right.
getting around that.
Right.
So that's what I learned to I'm learning to master that type of horror and fear. When you gotta face yourself in a mathematical, horrifying way, it's done. It's perfect.
Right. Yeah. I like
And
it.
that's what I'm working on. That's what I work on all the time. And some of my stories. If you read some of my stories, is little keys there to tell you, oh man, you can't help but to relate to it
Right.
because it's actually life.
Uh-huh.
And the life turned into a horror movie for you that
You're
you earned and deserved.
yeah. And it's super
So
and it's relatable, so it draws people in because people can start seeing themselves in those experiences.
yes, and once that happened, you're a master horror. That's what's
Yeah.
missing in horror. That's what's missing in horror.
Right.
Making
Right.
you see yourself in this, and that will scare you. So when I was growing up, that's what I learned for some of the horror movies, even comic books. I learned that when I was growing up. So I learned all of that. So I started saying, okay, I'm gonna try this, I'm gonna try that, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And then, like I said, the rest is history. And I got the ones I got out now, that's just the foundation. I got so many stories I want to tell.
Right.
That's
Right.
similar to that.
I understand.
And it's science, fantasy, science fiction, nature, the universe. I got stories that's sharing all that horror to self and nature.
So right now, where can somebody, because I'm sure everyone listening is super intrigued because I mean, like I said, the passion you display and the way you talk about your books makes me want to be like, man, I want to dive into these. Where can somebody find your work and purchase it today?
Well, everything right now is on Amazon, and you
Okay.
just have to type up Frederick Williams, and then type up my titles, which is Tales from the Rapers, which is like everybody's scared of that. Every time I can't even promote my stuff because they got that title, Tales from the Rapers.
Right. Right.
People like, what? Yeah, Tales from the Rapers is on Amazon.
Right.
And Amazon like, man, we can't be promoting this, man. Look at the title of it. And then my cover on it, oh man. But it was done for a purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I got another on Amazon. You gotta put Frederick Williams, and it's Justice and Judgment Horror Tales.
I like that title. I think I told you that when we first talked. That title is
Yeah.
dope. Justice and Judgment. What's the
you.
story behind the Justice and Judgment?
Well, like I said, life itself is hard. And we know by everyday life, a lot of people ask for that. They ask for that.
Yeah.
So, but it's really hard behind it. We see everyday life and how things take place. And we always talking about justice. And then nobody talks about the judgment behind the justice. Everybody want to talk about justice, but they don't want to talk about the judgment.
Right.
For some reason, they don't want to talk about the judgment of it.
Right.
And that need to change because it automatically comes after justice.
You're right.
Judgment does.
Yeah.
So that's why I said horror tales And then when you read my story, you can see why it's like that. You can see why I titled it that way.
Right.
No one gets away. No one gets away. It can take 2 years to 50 years to 100 years. You did not get away.
Right. You're right.
And some of my stories.
Judgment's gonna get you.
Yes, some of my stories has that element in it. You're not getting away. You just think you're getting away.
Right.
It could be 50 years. You did something 50 years ago and you thought you got away. That 50th year, you got the justice and judgment. You got it.
Right.
You got it. So that's what my story is about.
Man, that's a deep concept.
Mathematical. It's mathematical and it has principles on why it's happening. See, I try to write my stories to have purpose behind it, to have purpose.
Right.
If it don't have purpose and meaning, it ain't a horror story. It ain't even a story.
I like that. That's how I feel about writing
a lot of people don't do that. They just well, let's just do this because I felt like this. I had this emotion. I'm gonna write a story about it. No, It don't work that way.
Right.
It don't work that way. You gotta make people experience the story.
Right.
Because you can relate to it.
Right.
Or you might, oh man, I did this. I'm about to get it now. I'm about to get it.
Right.
Because I did that. I'm
right.
And so you read my story, it scares you that way.
Right.
Because no one gets away. No, I keep sharing it with no one gets away.
Right.
You're not getting away. So you can forget it. It's always a matter of time. They used to say back in the day, the long arm of the Lord want to get you.
Right.
It's the reason why they say
that.
And that's how my stories are.
The long arm, yeah.
Well, in my case, the black long arm of the Lord.
Right.
The black arm.
You like? I read that. I read you consider yourself the Black Stephen King. I like that.
Well, I'm working on that, man. Like I said, and I like Stephen King's. I like Stephen King's stories. And some of them do have that element in it. And I like, there need to be a black version of him.
Yeah.
If I can be that, well, I'm going to work on it and master it.
Yeah.
That's my whole goal, mission, and plan to do that.
Well, it sounds like you're on your way.
If I go higher than him, between Stephen King and Jordan Peele, I'll be both of them at the same time.
Man, Stephen King got some classics, man. I mean, Stephen King was so dope. It was like he didn't have to use gore and blood at all.
Oh yeah.
In a lot of his movies.
A lot of people don't understand with Stephen King is that he had a lot of culture in his stories.
Yeah.
Like if you go about it, if you look at The Shining, and you hear that black character that had powers. Stephen King knows the knowledge of the black man and his powers. Pet Sematary, he knows the power of the Native American.
Right.
So he used those elements in his stories.
Man, that's dope.
And that's a white man who's telling the story, but he knows about the culture of the black man and the Native man. And then he did Salem Lot, Cujo. I mentioned about The Shining,
The Last Stand.
Yeah, even on Carrie. Look how he did Carrie. That's a natural story.
Yeah.
That turned to supernatural.
Yep.
So yeah.
What was the one movie, man? It was the Lantern Ears, or
that's one of them. I forgot. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was like the guy, the guy had the aliens in his backyard or something, and I don't know.
I'm trying to remember. That sounds that do sound familiar.
Yeah.
But it runs up about he did what's that movie with the cats in it? Oh, I can't remember them. I can't believe I can't remember it. I think it was a Sleepwalkers or Skinwalkers, something. I can't remember right now. It'll come.
I know what you're talking about. I think it was Sleepwalkers.
Yeah, it might have been because with all the cats and everything.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I like about him is always something natural.
Yeah.
That you can relate to. He just made it supernatural because really everything is supernatural.
Right.
You haven't experienced it yet.
Right. Yeah.
It's like like when you read some of my stories, is talking to you in the unseen. It's talking to you in your thoughts.
Right.
You reading it, but you haven't comprehended your subconscious yet. And when it does, you're like, oh my God, what I just read.
Yeah, yeah.
And I got some people who reviewed my story said that. It's like, I can't believe I read it. Like, I had to read it a couple of times.
Oh, man.
Yeah, they had to read it a couple of times because they didn't realize what they was reading. And
right.
My stories are in the unseen.
I think those are the best types of writings, whether it's music, whether it's horror writing, whether it's any type of writing, the writing that draws you back to
absolutely
to reiterate what you just read or just heard or whatever the case may be.
Yes.
I like absolutely. That.
And that's how I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's how all my stories are. And I'm planning on making them expand from that. So it's be no one's going to hide. You ain't going to get away and you're not going to hide.
Right.
Everybody's going to be pointed out in my stories.
So when I read your book, just know everybody got to go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no. Ain't no, it's usually no happy endings.
Right.
If it is, I have one story that has a happy ending in it, but it's like they survived, but their future is, well, we did this to ourselves and we got to face this. We made our bed. So we got to live with this future.
I actually like that because I don't know, this might sound dark, but it's really not. I used to watching movies over the years. Everything always somehow ends in a happy ending, right? But that's not the reality of life.
No.
I like the movies that leave you like, man, like once again, back to Saw. Wow, he didn't get out of there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. It's what I was sharing about my stories. Okay, this is your justice and judgment. It's what you earned and deserved.
Right.
Now you gotta live with it.
Exactly.
And you're not gonna able to.
Your video went out.
I'm sorry. Hold on for
me. Oh, you're fine.
Oh, there we go.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah. That's how mine is. Okay, you did what you did, but now you gotta earn it. You made your bed.
Yeah.
So sometimes that's worse than what you did.
You're right. And
that's how my stories. That's why I said life is like a horror story. It's a matter of how you want to end it.
Right.
And that's how I write. And I learned that from growing up. And I learned that from reading comic books and reading and watching horror movies. I learned the same thing. I'm like, man, this gotta be done more often.
Yeah.
That's real hard. You can't get around that.
Exactly.
So that's what I've been writing. That's gonna be my style for whoever gonna read it. You gonna be like, man, this dude scaring the crap out of me, and he ain't done nothing to me. Well, that's how my story's gonna be.
You got me intrigued. I'm gonna dive into that justice and judgment. I gotta check that out. I like, that's a dope concept.
Yes, and that's how my stories are. But you don't see that everywhere in all these people that's doing horror. I mean, we mentioned about John Carpenter.
Right.
He's more of a shock. It's like shocking horror. Like the only movie that he did as a masterpiece is two movies that I just love. It's The Thing and They Live.
Oh yeah, those are both classics.
Yes, those are what I want to master. That type of story and idea behind the story.
Yeah, that slow build.
Yes, yeah. But that's an unseen movie. You have to really listen and look what you're experiencing.
Right, right.
Is this true or not? Well, yeah, it's usually true. I always share that. I'm gonna continue to say this. Horror, I'll say horror movies, horror stories. Sometimes they share the most truth or more truth than the Bible.
Wow, that's deep.
And I see, and you can prove that. You can prove it, especially everyday life. You can prove it.
Right.
And some horror stories be sharing biblical ideas and stories.
Right.
And some of my stories do that.
Right.
But it's real natural fear that you need to experience.
Right.
If you don't experience it, oh man, you heard about the the dumb person who ain't paying attention. They be the first one killed in the movie.
Exactly. Yep.
Those people are the ones that get killed first because they don't pay attention. They don't read no signs. They don't look at nothing. They just walking around like they just they heads in the clouds.
But like you said, that's real life.
That's real life. We got people like that every day out here.
Right.
So that you can see why that things happen to them.
Right.
When you read my stories, you be like, well, it's gonna make you learn to pay attention.
Right.
You're gonna learn to pay attention.
Right.
And that's I enjoy writing like that.
We got about 4 more minutes before they boot us out of this thing. Before we once again, we're sitting here with Frederick Williams, horror writer out of Arkansas. Look him up on Amazon under Frederick Williams. I'm gonna be looking into that Justice and Judgment today. I do want to say one thing real quick. I just want you to share some type of trial during your journey of becoming an author. What was a quick obstacle that you had to overcome?
One thing I had to learn, and a lot of people don't want to do this, is learn to be patient.
Yeah.
Everybody wants the quick dollar, the quick fame, the quick work. It is never going to work unless you want to sell your soul.
Right. Who wants to do that, right?
A lot of people want to sell their soul because they don't want to be patient.
Right.
So I got one story that took me almost 10 years to write.
Wow, that's deep.
Because I kept going between my life and rewriting the story, and got ideas. Patience, if you can master patience, you can master it yourself.
Yeah.
Because that's the hardest thing to do, to master yourself. Some people don't even want to accept themselves.
Yeah.
But when you're writing, you gotta be patient.
Right.
And you gotta consider what exists.
Right.
If you don't consider what exists, that's why a lot of people either quit or fail.
Right.
And that's what I tell everybody. I say, man, if you're not patient and you don't have the will to accomplish your will, you can forget it. You wasted all that time for
might as well stop now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And patience. That's with everything. Even with you, I see your cold clothing.
Uh-huh.
And like I said, it's going to be big. And I
appreciate that, man.
I'm seeing you growing now.
Yeah.
So it's like it's just being patient, and there's always rewards in being patient.
A lot of patience, man.
It's never in human history that nobody got rewarded for not being patient.
Exactly. It's true though, man.
It's not one person on this planet who have not got rewarded for being patient.
Yeah.
So I learned to master that.
Okay. Well,
and that's what I share everybody. If you can't do that, then don't do anything.
Don't do it at all.
Don't do it at all. If you can't be patient, don't waste your time and yourself doing it.
That's real, man. 100%. I agree. And that's one thing I talk to myself about all the time is just patience. Like building, like you said, with building this brand, with all the different aspects of the brand. I'm like, okay, there's a lot going on now, but it's not where I wanted to be yet. But I know I'm going to keep building, and one day it's going to resemble exactly my vision.
It's not so much that, it's that you got to consider what exists. You got to consider everybody around you. Everybody don't think like you think.
Right.
And that's where the patience got to come in at. You got to wait till everybody starts seeing your will and your idea.
Man, that's dope. That's real.
And your thinking. If you don't do that, you're going to waste your time. See,
you're right.
That's what I did. I said, look, everybody, I ain't going to expect the whole planet to jump to my stories.
Right.
But it's going to be enough people who will, and they will get the rest to do it.
Exactly.
So if you consider that, then the patience that you have and do will start being rewarded. So I don't look at, well, I'm trying to be this way at this time. No. Express your idea and just be patient. It's going to be expressed. It's going to be accepted. It's never going to be the way you want it.
Right.
That's what I learned.
Right.
And now look, I'm talking to you now.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. No doubt.
I ain't thinking about you 5 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
But I kept working and kept building, considering, and now look, I'm talking to the master here. I'm talking to cold clothing. You know, Greatness is the decision. Well, it's also patience to be great.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I like that.
So you have to put it's a decision, and patience is greatness.
You know what? I'm gonna make a shirt just for you. Hey
Hey,
man,
I
I don't want us to
appreciate
get
it.
booted off. Zoom is about to boot us off, but I want to thank you for this interview. We appreciate
Thank you.
Me and you, we're just gonna keep growing together, man. We'll keep tabs on each other and just keep growing together. Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
You have a great day, man. I'm gonna reach back out to you here in a bit.
Okay, man. I'll talk to you later, man.
All right, man. Peace.
All right, peace, man.